Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome back to tonight's second half. In honor of Memorial Day, tonight's second half is a subscriber interview, and that subscriber is a Vietnam veteran. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. The merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, it takes half a second. If you don't want to miss any of the informative and exciting uploads I put out, click that bell icon, and finally, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And guys, they do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with tonight's second half, shall we? All right, everyone. Tonight I have a subscriber with us who a couple of days ago shared his encounter with us. I narrated it. He and his girlfriend were at a park one night and he had a standoff with a dog man. His name is Bill, so everyone welcome Bill. Bill, how are you today?
I'm doing fine, Jeff. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to share this pretty much terrifying encounter with us. When I read it, I was blown away. I mean, you just didn't back down. It was pretty crazy. So, well, as you know, I don't direct the show, so I'm going to turn the floor over to you so you can share your encounter with me in your own words. And if I find any, if I have any questions that I feel pertinent, I may ask, but usually I just don't interrupt.
Okay.
All right. The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay. Well, this happened in the late 90s, probably 96 or 7. I had just got back from, I just gotten out of the Army. I had just retired. And it wasn't too long that I had been back from Desert Storm. I had met this young lady, and we hit it off pretty good. And so one day we decided that, one night actually, we decided we were going to go for a ride. And I took her out to this park that's 10 or 15 miles north of Omaha. And this park was known for its paranormal activity. They'd had orbs seen out there. There's been a lot of dead bodies found out there. And well, we weren't really believing that. So we decided to go out there and just spend some time together, have some alone time. Well, we drove up to the park's overlook or where you could see, for miles. It was a beautiful, beautiful sight. You could see out over the landscape and the Missouri River, and it was just beautiful. Well, while we were doing this, she told me that she had to tinkle. She had to go to the bathroom. Well, we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's dark, it's probably 11 o'clock at night. There wasn't anybody around, so she was just going to open the door to the car and do her thing. So being the gentleman I am, I went around the other side of the car, turned my back to her, and was waiting. Well, after a few moments, I heard her kind of squeal a little bit. And so I grabbed my weaponry. It's something I didn't do without after coming back. I always had my 45 and either a Bowie knife or a machete. Well, that night I had the machete. So I grabbed them from the car and I came around the side of the car, and she was standing there and with this look on her face like, she was scared to death. And I didn't know what was going on. So I turned around to see what she was looking at. And standing there about 25 feet away was this dog. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. It was standing on its back feet. And it was just standing there looking at us. And so I squared off between it and her and just looked back. Jeff, this damn thing smiled at me. I mean, it had this big toothy grin, and it was evil.
Right.
And it scared me. It scared me quite a bit, and it scared me more than I've been scared even in combat. But with all the training that I'd had, I conquered my fear, I guess, and decided that if it's going to smile at me, I'm going to smile back. So I did the same thing. I smiled at it with the most evil grin that I could come up with. And I raised my 45 and I took that machete and I scraped it along the ground and I took a step towards it. Well, the minute I took a step towards it, it barked and just bolted to my left. I mean, it just bolted. And the next thing I know, from the left or from the right of us, two more of these things came up out of the brush and took off with him. We had never seen those. We had no idea that they were there.
Wow.
We didn't hear them. We didn't see them, anything else. Well, needless to say, we got the hell out of there in a hurry. And like I said in your narration, I never saw that girl again, and it was a shame because I really liked her.
Right.
Yep. Here's an epilogue to that story. When you narrated that, she heard it, and she tracked me down on Facebook, and now we're talking again and supposed to go out for drinks Friday. So God is good, and thank you very much, Jeff, for that.
Well, when you shared that with me, and you said, you were a little nervous and hesitant about coming on, and then you shared, that she had heard it and kind of said, I want you to share it. And I was blown away because, like I said to you, I got 18,000 subscribers. It's not like I've got a million people listening to me. And, that's a 1 out of 18,000 chance right there. And, the numbers are pretty good. And, definitely God was meant to, it was meant for you guys to meet up again, I guess. So,
yeah. It's been 25 years. So it is absolutely amazing.
So when you were face to face and this thing smiled at you, were you able to see any coloration to the eyes? Was there anything?
The eyes were yellow.
Okay. Were they kind of
amber, kind of an amber color.
Okay. All right. Were they the glowing kind, like everyone describes, or was it?
No. They were just from the moon. We had a full moon that night, and just from the moonlight, they kind of, you could see it glinted yellow. I couldn't tell you exactly what color the fur was, though. It was dark enough for that. The moon was behind me, so I didn't really get to see any kind of a color.
Okay.
And to tell you the truth, I was looking at his face and then its eyes. I never even saw its hands or anything else. I know that the arms were long. It was kind of hunched over. So, it was possibly as tall as I was when it was hunched over, but I really don't have any idea how tall it would have been if it had stood up. Probably, 6'8", 6'9". It was, and it wasn't really all that massive.
Right.
It looked like a dog. Okay, it didn't have the big chest or anything. Though, when it did stand up, it looked like the upper torso was more along the lines of a human than a dog.
Okay. Now
it was a dark color. That's all I could tell you.
Right. Yeah. The other two, when they came out, were they running bipedally as well?
No, they were on the ground.
Oh wow.
They were on all fours. As a matter of fact, after that first one took off, it dropped down to all fours too.
Okay. Wow.
Like I said, it really looked like a dog.
Yeah.
Now, I can't. It was kind of, the face was kind of a cross between a shepherd and a Doberman.
Okay.
It wasn't really either one of them. It was, I don't know, it looked like a shepherd and a Doberman got together and had a baby, you know.
Yeah.
What else can I say?
No, I understand what you're saying, because my encounter doesn't fit the atypical Arnold Schwarzenegger looking Dogman. Mine was not scrawny, but not huge like everyone says, and it was kind of awkward, looking. It was more awkward looking than, I was scared shitless when I saw it, but it just didn't make sense to my mind,
Right.
So,
me either.
Yeah.
What in God's name ever possessed me to take a step forward? I don't know. But like I said in the narration, we had nowhere to go. Our backs were against a drop off, which was at least 100 feet.
Right.
And to the left, well, there was really nowhere to go because it's a lookout. This thing peninsula's out on this big drop offs all around us.
Kind of like
the only
your
way we could
atypical
go was
lover's lane.
forward, and he was there. So
right. So, kind of like your atypical lover's lane kind of thing. You're stuck up on. You're trapped up there. There's only one way to go, and that's the way you came.
And this thing knew it. Huh. So that's why I had no idea those other two were there. From the looks of this thing, he wasn't all that big compared to what I've heard before. Right. And I wouldn't think that anything with any intelligence would take on something that was his same size. And I'm saying this thing, okay, he wasn't really tiny. He was probably my size, and I'm 6 foot and 210. So I would say it was probably 210, 250 at the most. It wasn't all that big.
Right.
So I don't know whether it was just a scout, a young one. I don't know. But all I know is when I took a step forward with that gun and that machete, it decided to leave. Yeah.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, anything with intelligence, you obviously, they know, we've heard many times that they know what a firearm is.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a firearm and you've got a rather large blade with you. So, it was probably, I don't know if it kind of didn't feel safe, or could rely on the other two with it. Maybe it was a juvenile. Maybe there were 3 juveniles just, out for a night or whatever.
After all these years, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking they were young, and they decided that this may not be a fun game to play.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, most definitely.
Because I was back in the day, I was a force to be reckoned with, and I don't know. He probably could have tore the shit out of me, but I don't know, I just smiled and stepped forward, and I guess that was enough.
Right.
Maybe that sign of aggression on my part was enough to scare him off, because 3 of them, I couldn't have taken 3. No. I might have been able to take that one because he was my size with a gun and a machete, but there were 2 other ones that I didn't even know were there. Now that's what scared me the most, and the fright came after it all happened, when I realized there was 3 of these damn things there.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, when they ran, did they run right by you, the other 2?
Yes.
Did they turn and look at you or anything, or just?
Nope. They just bolted.
Wow.
They bolted between me and the car, and she was at the front door of the car. So, and I was stepped forward. I was about 5 to 6 feet in front of the rear of the car. And they went between me and the car, right behind me. I mean, if I'd have taken a step back, they'd run straight into me.
Huh.
went right by me, following this guy. I could feel the wind when they went by. And I'm telling you what, when they say they're fast, believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can only imagine, what the girl was feeling, and then seeing, just like you, I mean, this thing, she's watching these two go right behind you. I can imagine what was going on in her head, like, well, is it going to grab you as they go by or what? I mean, that's
I don't know.
terrifying.
We never really talked about it. Right. I got a feeling she just thought, this motherfucker is crazy. I need to get away from him.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
I'm sorry for the language.
No worries. No worries. So, like you shared, you had retired from the service. You actually had a Sasquatch encounter during your service years. Is there anything you'd willing to share with us?
Yeah, sure. This happened back in September or October of 1970. I had just gotten out of advanced individual training and was assigned to a cavalry unit as a scout. I was the only one in a unit that had, actually had the cavalry scout MOS. So I was put in charge. Well, not in charge. I was made a squad of guys that were the scout team, even though I was the only one trained. Anyway, we were training heavily because we had been called up and were going to be deployed to Vietnam. So we were going through all that heavy training that goes on beforehand. And this happened in the deep, old forest of Fort Jackson, South Carolina. It was a very dark night. The canopy of the trees made it even blacker. There was a moon, but it didn't come through the canopy too well. Orders came down I was on the left side of the main body, my squad was, and orders came down for us to move ahead and scout ahead of the main body. So the six of us spread out, probably 25 yards apart, and we moved forward. We were trying to be as quiet as we could, but with the old growth, the leaves on the ground, the sticks and everything, it was a chore, but we managed to be pretty quiet. I got about 300 yards ahead, and I saw this big old tree sitting there, and this was a huge old oak tree, I think. And so I went up to the tree, and I got down in a prone position. Now, back then, the only thing we had for night vision was the old Starlight scopes. That was a Generation 1 night scope. Okay. And that's the only thing we could see through. And so I laid down on the ground and I scanned the area, and then I noticed something. There was no noise. I couldn't hear frogs, insects. The only thing I could hear was silence. And I thought that was a little strange, but, that usually tells you there's a predator around. So I thought we were onto something. I thought maybe the aggressor squad that we were going up against, which was a ranger trained reserve unit that did this for the Army. That's what their job was to be the aggressive force for training purposes. And I thought, well, okay, they must be close. So I went to get up. I put my hand down to push up, back up to my feet, and all hell broke loose. I had put my hand down on this booger's foot, and he screamed so loud that I couldn't hear for 10 minutes afterwards. Well, I stumbled back, firing my M16 up at it. Of course, now these were blanks, so nobody was getting hurt. And screaming for the rest of my squad to retreat. Well, with all the gunfire and everything, my company came charging my way, thinking I was in a gunfight, into a firefight. Well, once this thing saw that, it took off. And I'm telling you what, it destroyed everything in its path. You could literally see like a tunnel or a lane down the woods where he went right through it. I mean, trees, bushes, whatever was in its way just was destroyed. Well, about 20 minutes later, these 3 or 4 suburban type vehicles, they were all painted black, showed up, and about, I'd say 20 guys got out of these Suburbans, and they were all dressed in black fatigues. And they immediately took over the scene. I was taken into a medical tent and looked over from head to toe. They checked my hand where I touched it and everything else, took blood. I was in there for 2 hours. And they were grilling me the whole time about what I saw. Well, they did the same thing with the rest of my squad. And, all I could do is tell them what I saw, and pointed out this thing had hit its head on a branch as it was turning away of that same tree. And so I told them about that, and there were some of them that were measuring and taking footprints and doing all kinds of different stuff, scientifically type stuff out there. There was 6 men with heavy weapons that went after it, and then the rest of them were medical people and interrogators. Well, they finally let me out of there, and I was told point blank, don't ever tell anybody about this. Well, I'm figuring that was 50 years ago, and I think I'm pretty safe. So there's that story. Now, I was told later on that night after we got back to our barracks by my platoon sergeant, when I asked him, what did they find? What was that thing? And he said, well, nobody knows for sure, but the guys did tell me that it was 8 feet, 11 inches tall, and they were estimating that it went anywhere between 900 to 1,000 pounds. And I thought, holy mother of God, what the hell was that? So after a while, it dawned on me what it was, because I'd seen the Patterson-Gimlin film when I was young, but I had gotten away from that. And it just struck me. I said, holy crap, it was a Sasquatch. It was Bigfoot. I don't like that name. I call him Sasquatch now, but at the time it was a Bigfoot.
Right.
And that's pretty much it. After that, I kept my mouth shut, never told anybody about it until I wrote it on the Bigfoot Outlaws website. And that's the only other place that I told that story. So,
yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely a terrifying encounter, touching a Sasquatch's foot. I can only imagine. And then 2 hours of kind of interrogation. I mean, wow! I can only imagine what you were thinking during that time.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to know too, but they wouldn't give me any answers. So right. I think they knew what it was. Oh, I think they encountered it before, or they wouldn't have got there that fast.
Right.
So what can you say? I got to see its outline because, like I said, it was pitch black out there.
Right.
I couldn't tell you the color of its skin or what his face looked like or anything. All I know is that when I put my hand down, I thought I was putting my hand down on that moss that grows on the trees. Yeah. Especially down by the roots. That's what I thought I put my hand on until the thing hollered. And I thought, holy, and it yanked its foot away. And I thought, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, by God, what do you make out of
Yeah,
that?
it was definitely a Sherman moment.
Well, you and I have talked for a little bit prior to the interview. I hope you don't find it disrespectful or anything to me to bring this up, but you were in Vietnam, and I appreciate your service for this great country, Desert Storm. We started talking a little bit, and you had a run-in with the rock apes, silhouettes almost like the Sasquatch kind of. Can you kind of share the what you told me about the height and stuff? Because I agreed with you on a lot of the things that I've heard myself.
Okay, we never really got a good look at these things because it was night. It was nighttime, and nighttime in the Vietnam jungle is like Fort Jackson. It was pitch black.
Uh-huh.
All we could see was the outline of these things as they came at us, and they were about 5 to 6 feet tall. I mean, there was a variance in size between. Like I said, there was about a dozen of these things, and they were charging at us. So all we really saw was the outlines. They were 5 to 6 feet tall, maybe 250, 300 pounds. They wouldn't go down with rifle fire, with M16 fire. They were just too dense. Their muscles, they were tremendously strong. So their muscle mass was too much. And I don't know, they just wouldn't go down. So we ended up using grenades and stuff like that. And in the flash of the grenades, you could see just flashes of their face, and they were definitely ape-like. There was no human look to them whatsoever.
Right.
You could see their big chests, and their arms were the size of watermelons. I mean, for something that big, these were just overpumped. They were just huge.
Right.
I mean, muscle mass wise.
Now,
And that's about all I can tell you about them.
When they ran at you, were they making noise? Were they hollering at you, or like?
Oh yeah, they were screaming.
Did they sound like your atypical gorilla or monkey sound?
More like a chimp.
Okay.
Maybe a little lower. A little lower in the voice,
Yeah.
But they sounded like chimps.
Yeah.
And they were really screeching. They were actually screeching at us. They were trying to scare us, and they were doing a good job.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when you and I were talking, you really did hit the head on the nail on the head by saying, to me, what you said was, to me, they just looked like monkeys or gorillas, and I've heard a lot of conflicting stories where people say they're huge, or they were just like what you said, rock apes, and that's what I've always assumed them to be, is a forgotten monkey or gorilla of the Vietnam jungle. I mean,
right. They kind of got their name because they used to throw these great big rocks at vehicles and at people. And I mean, when I'm talking great big rocks, I'm talking about boulders that are 4 feet across, the size of, I don't know, a wrecking ball. I mean, they're just huge rocks, and they pick them up over their heads and could throw them at you. And they could throw them a ways. So these things were tremendously strong, but they weren't really that big. Like I said, the biggest one I saw was probably 6 foot.
Wow. That is truly amazing.
The guys used to shoot at them with M16s, and then they'd take a step back and they'd pick up another rock and throw it at you. It was like there was no effect whatsoever with the M16 rounds. It took the 50 cal machine guns to chase them off. So
right.
That's all I can tell you about them. Other than that one time at night, the stories about shooting at them while they're throwing rocks, that was just a story that I heard from another vet.
Right.
That had encountered them during the day.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's fascinating that you actually had a run-in with these, elusive creatures that, so many people say don't exist, but, there's too many stories from vets with nothing to lose and nothing to gain to share a story like that,
It was just a fact if you were over there for any time.
Right.
It was like, there's Viet Cong. Yeah, there's Viet Cong. There's rock apes. Yeah, there's rock apes. There's Montagnards. Yeah, there's Montagnards. So, it was just the fact of life over there at the time.
Yeah.
But there again, there wasn't that many encounters.
Right.
The reason it went around so much is because it was so strange.
Yeah.
you know, but you didn't really run into them that often.
Definitely crazy. But yeah, so I really appreciate you coming on today. Like I said in the beginning, you really were kind of hesitant. But you know, I really thought it'd be great if you did share this, because it's such an amazing encounter that you had, and the description of your Dogman really fits mine. Mine wasn't that Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, but
No.
you definitely knew there was intelligence to them. So I appreciate it. And it's truly amazing that she reached out, that she was listening to this channel and reached out and found you too. I mean,
isn't it though? Yeah. God is good.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, don't hang up after we end the interview, because I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes after. But is there anything that you'd like to say to the other subscribers out there?
Well, the only thing I'd have to say is to keep your minds open, because there are things out there that people, you know, that the science just will not acknowledge. So just keep an open mind, keep your head on a swivel when you're out in the woods, and keep in mind that these things might be around, and I think you'll be okay.
Absolutely. Bill, it was great having you on, and I appreciate it. Thank you for your service to this great country, too.
Well, thank you for your support, Jeff.
Have a great day.
You too, bud. Thanks.
Wow, what an awesome second half. I hope you guys truly enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Guys, thank you so much for all of your support and kindness. It never ceases to amaze me just how blessed I am. With that, please, everyone, stay safe, happy, and healthy. God bless you all.